People who take walks at night. What's the scariest thing you've seen? Story 1. There was one night where a car stopped up the road. A girl got out, yelled for help, then got back in and they drove off. I have no idea if it was serious or not, considering she got right back in the car. Story 2. Potential mugging trap. Have a car close. Helpless little lady as bait and bam. A well-meaning, upstanding member of society gets shoved in the car, robbed of everything and dumped in a completely different part of town, with no means to call for help or police. Story 3. During winter, in a rural no-cell service kind of area. Completely dark, no street lights nor anyone in sight. Temperatures were around 20, and it was snowing. I was walking my dog with a flashlight. Then I heard someone start screaming bloody murder. Flight or fight kicked in. It truly sounded like someone was being stabbed to death for what seemed like forever. I chose to find out what the hell was going on. What I found instead was beyond anything I expected. He was a 5-year-old boy wandering down the road all alone. All he was wearing were light flannel pants and a thin t-shirt. No shoes or hat. And screaming so loudly it echoed through the hills. I dropped my dog's leash and walked up to him slowly, gently, and repeatedly telling him that I'm a mom and that he's going to be okay. I wrapped him into my arms and carried him to a neighbor's home to warm him by the fire and call for help. Edit. The boy's parents were visiting friends. The boy got up at night to look for his parents, who'd left him and his sister home, while they were out drinking. He got lost in the dark and just kept walking and screaming. Originally thinking I'd get in the crosshairs or witness some bloody domestic fight is what put my mind in the scared shitless headspace. Plus dark, no cell phones, no weapon. He was so damn lucky to have been found by you. There was a story near me a few winters back where a 2-year-old girl got out at night in their new house. Just started learning how to unlock doors, and she didn't know how to get back inside. A neighbor thought they heard crying and regretted not investigating further. The girl froze to death on the stairs behind their apartment. Story 4. One time I turned around to see what was behind me just out of intuition, and I saw someone step behind a tree rather quickly and try to hide from me. I stood there for a second to confirm this, then I speed walked home. Fucking creepy. Story 5. I have 4 kids, and my wife left to her sister's house a short drive away for a girls' night. We were in between houses, so we were holed up in the basement of my parents' house at this. After finishing my work day, newborn on my lap, WFH COVID joys, I did a shout ask if any of the kids wanted to play games, and the 2 oldest came running. My parents have a big house, so I mistakenly assumed the youngest was just having fun in another room. About 30 minutes into the play session, 2 cops appear in the hallway in the basement entrance. How long ago did you see the youngest 4-year-old? I said an hour maybe. I wasn't paying attention. Did something happen? Try 2 hours. My heart dropped. Apparently right after my wife left, my youngest tried to walk to her sister's house to go swimming with them. Somebody saw her walking alone near a busy street, headed in the right direction surprisingly, stopped and helped her. She's a stepdaughter, so her last name wasn't my last name, and she isn't the clearest talker, so for 2 hours, they were trying everything to find her. Through some miracle, one of the cops called my sister that lived nearby BC. He knew her, and she has kids around her age, and my sister got her back to us. The awful thing is that I probably wouldn't have noticed till that night. I'm super grateful for the excellent officers that brought her back and the woman who stopped her night to save my girl. Story 6. For me, it was when I would do my nightly runs. Some idiot early 20-year-old kids trying to be gangsters yelled out of their car while driving on the road. Hey you fat F***CK! Stop right there! That's when they pulled into the park I was running at and started driving towards me. I booked it out of the park, and while they tried to do a U-turn in the parking lot to get around to my direction, made it out and got home. That's the last time I ran in my old neighborhood. Story 7. I almost did the same as a kid. I was 6 and my parents visited friends, and left me with my 15-year-old brother, who jokingly said that was going to leave me home alone. I then woke up at like 11 p.m. or so, and my parents were still not home, so I went looking for my brother because I was scared. I entered his room and saw his bed empty. I walked around the house and searched for him, couldn't find him. I remembered what he told me and started panicking. I then started putting on clothes and prepared to walk to the house where my parents were at. The moment I went out, my parents luckily returned and I went back inside. Turns out my brother was in his bed sleeping but pressed against the wall, and I couldn't see him from the angle I was looking. Story 8. I was driving home and pulled into my small apartment complex parking lot. I passed a small toddler-aged boy walking towards the street alone, and I initially thought his parents were in a car close by. As soon as I parked, I saw their open apartment door and immediately rushed back to the kid. He could only point towards the busy road and say, "Mama." I kept asking him where his mama was, but of course his little brain couldn't understand. I picked him up and carried him back to his apartment, where I found his totally exhausted dad asleep on their couch in the living room with a kids show playing on the TV. I set him down and quietly told him to stay there, and that his mama would be back soon. I would have woken the dad up, but he was half dressed, and I felt very uncomfortable waking up a random neighbor inside their own home. I ended up writing an anonymous note that explained what happened and advised that they buy child locks to prevent this from occurring again. I still see this cute kid every day, and I am so thankful I listened to my intuition that day. Story 9. Walking home from a late-night gym session at 24-Hour Fitness. A white van passed by me, slowing down. Slowly took a right turn in front of me. A couple minutes later, I reached the turn and see the van stopped at the exit of a parking lot. It's facing back my way. It's like 4 a.m. and nothing else is going on, and I'm creeped out. The van starts coasting forward slowly after I make the turn, and I sprint across the street to a gas station and into this small dead-end water/air pump station and press my body against an area of the wall that the van can't quite see me. It literally pulls into the air/water station and stops. I hear the engine running right fucking next to me, but they never get out of the van. I just stand there pressed against the wall until they pull out and drive around the gas station into the lot on the opposite side of the wall. I hear the van lingering for some time before it goes silent. Still, I wait a while longer before I leave and run the rest of the way home. Story 10. This was some years back in India. I normally take a walk after my dinner, and the course includes a stretch where I have to pass by a graveyard, and this was no big deal for me as I was doing it from a long time, and it was routine. I was also used to the regular funeral pyre that I witness oftentimes. Things changed when one night I was walking as usual, but when I reached by the graveyard I got a call on my phone, and as it was important, I stood near the entrance of the graveyard, and without me realizing soon I was walking the talk, and as soon as I hung the phone I realized that I had walked quite a few yards into the graveyard premises, and now it was only me on the way back. Clearly, I was uncomfortable this time, and I was hurrying, and while I was almost by the exit there was a pyre which was slowly dousing, and as I reached very close to it, there was a sudden explosion, and by the time I was figuring out what that was, I was seeing the scariest things of my life, as from the pyre the skull along with the spine was literally curling all the way up, and it seemed to me that the dead was rising. I didn't have the nerve to stand there anymore. It took me a few months to recover from this. Later I came to know that this was a common thing while a body is cremated over pyre. Only thing is that normal people don't stay there until the funeral is completely done, only the funeral keepers stay.